teachers will take time out of class to talk about courses you can take between now and high school graduation. You will use a Google Doc to keep track of courses you think make sense for you based on your interest and your goals, and then you actually register for classes in 10th grade before Thanksgiving. So you'll be using what you are learning about next week to start thinking about 10th grade and beyond. Today, we have Dr. Jill Urich and Mrs. Joey Beach here to kick off our Future Ready Week.
Joey and I are here today to share with you some information. Next week's a big week for all of you because you're really starting to map out the next few years of your high school experience and have to make some pretty big decisions so that you graduate with an informed decision. So, as Mrs. Snyder said, my name's Jill Urich. I'm worried about the feedback, that's why I'm saying what I am. My name's Jill Urich, and I serve as director of Orbis. You would have heard about Orbis a couple weeks ago when some high school students came. So what my day-to-day work is to give experiences to high school students, so they're doing project work with the workforce and they're getting some much-needed experience by the time they graduate from high school. And because of that, I get to work with people like Joey Beach every day.
Morning, I'm Joey Beach. I'm the Executive Director of Ankeny Economic Development Corp. We are a small business-funded nonprofit in the area. And as a result, I get to work with businesses all over the community, everything from the large folks like the John Deere's and the Casey's corporates to small firms that you've probably never heard of. It's a great variety of different businesses that make up our community. And prior to joining Ankeny Economic Development Corp, I spent about 20 years in a corporate position downtown with one of the big financials.
So today, we're hoping you're going to walk out of here with an answer to a couple questions. Number one, what is Future Ready Week, and what does it mean for me as an individual student? As you heard a few minutes ago, Future Ready Week is really those things you need to know to be ready for your future. And we just want you to be able to have a mindset of what kind of skills and experiences do you need to pick out your classes in high school. So when Joey and I were meeting and getting ready for today, we, just like you might go to Starbucks with your friends and you see people working at Starbucks, we may have been a couple of those adults, they're working together at Starbucks, and we meet there and we talk about things like this and plan experiences for students. In getting ready for today, it's really like traveling through life and filling a backpack for your journey. So today we're going to talk about that Future Ready backpack and what you need to fill it with in the coming years so you are ready to go when you graduate from high school. So at this point, we're going to sit down and the two of us are just going to have a conversation about these things. So Joey, when you and I met, we talked about these 5 points about being ready for the future. And we're going to go through each of these in greater detail. One of the things that we looked at were these skills that students need when they graduate from high school. Employers in all career fields talk about how these are the things that they need, no matter what career you're going to. So it goes beyond academics. So in Ankeny, our students are getting a great academic foundation in their classes, and the employers are saying they want evidence that students can do it. So it's what you know, and then it's what you do with it. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah, when employers, at some point, most of you will be putting together a resume and saying, here's the great education I have, please hire me, please pay me to do stuff, so that you can then go out and do whatever it is you want with all the money they pay you. When they do that, they will evaluate, okay, do they have the education? Do they know how to read, know how to write a report, do all the things you're learning about in your classes? But then they want to know, that's great, and in here you've shown you've learned this, you've been able to take a test, and then you can display that. But then they want to know, do you actually do that? When I put you in a desk or put you out in the field, what can you actually do? If you don't have the handbook with you, if there isn't a test at the end of the day, will you know how to do it and demonstrate it, and then you can think on the fly and be able to implement it? And that's the kind of application of those technical skills that employers are looking for. So it's part of it's the education, but the other part is the actual experience. Like your teachers, they had a degree when they were going out into the world and said, first wanted to teach, but they learned a ton when they had to stand up in front of a bunch of students like yourselves and then help you learn. So it's that combination of applying those skills or taking those skills and applying what you learned.
So whether I want to be an engineer or a construction worker or a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer or whomever, these are the skills everybody has to show and that evidence. So you all need to think about what type of experiences you can get for yourself in these next few years so that you are going to stand out from other people who don't have experience showing that you can do these things. So when I think about that backpack, I'm thinking I need to be able to collaborate, right? I've got to be able to problem solve. I have to be service oriented, so if you have a chance to earn your silver cord hours, if you have a part-time job, you heard about Orbis and the work-based learning experiences you can do through that. All those types of things are going to make you stand out, and developing your leadership skills and just being able to adapt, I think is really important. All right. Finding experiences and showing up. So a good piece of advice that I'm sure you're hearing your teachers tell you is you can't just wait for everything to come to you. There are so many opportunities, whether they're activities, music, sports, clubs, all types of activities around you, and it's your responsibility to show up, get involved, and that's how you can develop your skills and really discover what you're good at and what you like to do. Do you want to add anything about that?
It sounds simple, just do it, but that is part of it. Just sitting back and watching something or reading something is great because you're absorbing it. Ultimately, then you need to give it back to the world. You all have talents and abilities. A big part of showing up is then sharing those talents and abilities with the world, and a great way to try those out is when you're young and go, oh, that worked really well, or I enjoyed that. And if you can do something you're well at and you enjoy, it's a great way to spend life, and even better if somebody will pay you for it.
So any issues to show up and be on the move, right? Okay. All right, so pursuing your interests and your strengths. So this is that moment where I get to say, don't do something just because your friend's doing it. Everybody in this room is good at something, right? You all have gifts. And so thinking about what do you like to do? What are you good at? And then what are some needs in the community or in the world that you can then contribute to by intersecting all of those things? So thinking about what you are interested in and what you're good at is important as you think about your high school experience.
And I have a good example of that. So this will date me, but I was in high school in the very early 80s. I changed my wardrobe since then, but that was the context of when I was exploring what I wanted to do after high school. And I had the opportunity to take a college course at the local community college in computer programming. Back then, computers were just getting started. They were done on, saving a program was on a cassette disc, which I'm sure you guys are.
You have just aged yourself.
Yes, I have. But here's a couple things I knew. One is I knew that I needed to be able to have a skill that would earn me a living. I didn't have a lot of money. I needed to make sure I was going to be able to support myself pretty quickly after school. I knew computers were going to be a big part of the future. I didn't know how or what, but I knew that was going to be a thing. And I was interested in it. I wanted to know what this was all about because there were a lot of headlines around it. One of the most important things I learned was that I wasn't good at programming. I was interested. I knew there was a need. I knew if I tried to do that for my career, I would be miserable, and most of the people around me would have been miserable. Fortunately for me, I didn't spend then another couple years trying to figure it out. I learned really early, that's not for me. but I learned enough about the computers and programming that throughout my entire career, when a project came up, they said, hey, Joey, will you go talk to IT? Will you do that? We've got this special project going on and we need somebody to work with IT. I understood what they were doing. I knew I wasn't the right person to do it, but I was really good at working with them to get the business need developed. The exploring that we hope you do in the next couple of weeks is to not only learn what you're good at and understand that, but it's just as valuable to learn what you're not good at or what you don't want to do.
I love that because it really is about making an informed decision at the end of the day. So even if you discover that you don't like something, you've given yourself a chance to try it. So think about that because there's a lot of great elective courses available in high school. So think about something that you might want to try that you might end up liking or maybe not. I think about maybe somebody that's really creative and hands-on. So they're interested in doing things hands-on and maybe their strengths are in the area of maybe construction or trades. Well, we definitely have a need for that. When I think about that, our workforce is in dire need of people in skilled trades. I think of our teachers. They were interested probably in working with people. They had a strength in teaching, and then the need of the world is educating kids. So there's a career out there for every one of you in this room. All right, multiple pathways to get to your future.
Yay.
So one way to get from where you are today to your career is to graduate from high school, go right into a four-year college, and graduate and get a job. There's also a lot of different pathways, and there's not one right or wrong way. It's whatever's right for you. So Joey, you want to talk about some of those ways?
Yeah, it's a little bit like, everybody knows where Target is over on Delaware and Orlebar, right? For somebody, I guess most of you have been there, not everything comes through Amazon. So there's a ton of different ways to get there. You can take first to Delaware, or you could take Ankeny Boulevard down to Orlebar, and then there's another 20 different paths you could use to get from here to there. And careers are a lot like that. You could, like Jill said, straight graduate, go here, get this, and then beg for a job. But you could also go get a job, and then while you're working, work and take classes at night, or during the day, or however that works. That's an option. You could go to a community college. You could do an apprenticeship. There's a lot of different ways, and it doesn't have to be the standard script of how you get there, because ultimately, we could all take a different way of getting there, but as long as we all end up at Target, we've met the objective. There's a lot of CEOs, high executive, business owners who took alternative routes to get where they're going. And the key for you is to find the right path and to gain experience as you gain experience and knowledge as you go, so that once you...
One of the things I've learned about working with you in the last few years is how quickly jobs change, and then there's new jobs available all the time. So that idea that you get a job when you're 21 or 22 and you're in that job for the rest of your life is not so much anymore. I mean, your jobs change and based on your interests and experiences. So really embracing the idea that there's multiple ways to get where you need to go.
There's a couple great examples about that if we have a second in that. There's a gentleman who works at Monsanto, now known as Bayer, one of the largest companies in the world, and he's in a robotics tech. And, he kind of floundered after high school, got into this robotics tech program, took a few classes, discovered he was really good at it. They hired him right away, or he got hired right away, really learned his craft and honed that ability, and now they pay for him to travel all around the world to do these set up robotics all around the world. And when he first started that, he never dreamed he'd be traveling all around the world doing the same thing. And to that point too, even if you are robotics tech, all of the technology changes so fast that even though it might seem like the same job, that job's going to evolve over the years, just as all things change over the coming years. So it's never that, and then you can do it for the rest of your life. It's rarely ever the case.
So something you mentioned a minute ago is the idea that jobs are changing and there's multiple pathways to get where you want to go. So I think about everybody lands their job and they get money, right? They're earning money.
That's the hope.
And one of the things that we would want to encourage you to stay away from is whatever pathway you take, don't put yourself into a lot of debt. So as you're mapping out your high school experiences, you want to be really making those informed decisions about what you like to do and what you're good at so that you don't go into a lot of debt later. So do you want to talk about that?
Well, there's a general rule that says that your ability to pay off the debt that you incur is best if your debt is limited to the amount of what your first year's income would be once you start that profession. So for example, if you want to be a teacher, the average teacher today in Iowa is making about $42,000. Okay, that's average. So there's some below, some above that. So if somebody goes and gets a degree, they're ready to teach, if their debt is at about 42 or below, they will be able to comfortably pay that off as they go over their career. If they incurred $80,000 or $100,000 in debt, getting that same degree, but they're making that same average amount, they're going to have a lot harder time. It's going to be a much bigger weight to carry as you then build your career. So
It's weighing down the backpack.
our worry is, it's not that we don't want you to ever get into some debt, but you have to be cognizant of how much weight you're going to carry, and know, does that career going to be able to help me carry that weight? The opposite could be, if you want to be a neurosurgeon, wonderful. Then in that context, $100,000 or more in student loan debt might be totally appropriate because of the beginning salaries of a neurosurgeon. What happens, or where people get into real trouble, is they go to school, they incur a lot of debt, and then they don't get the degree. That's almost one of the worst case scenarios, because then you don't have that leverage to help you carry the load that you've incurred in the process.
Sure. So to avoid that weight in this backpack, it really comes down to what are those experiences that I'm getting through high school so that by the time I graduate, I've got those skills that I need. I can collaborate and communicate and problem solve, and I've gotten a lot of experiences in my portfolio or my resume to show that I can do those things and make a right decision so I don't go in a lot of debt because I'm going into the right post-secondary schooling that's right for me.
Right.
Okay, so the idea is we want you to make an informed decision, and there's a lot of adults that can help you. Your current teachers, your counselors, the work that you guys have been doing in Naviance, I think is really important too, because it's specific to your skill sets and career paths that match your interests. So I would encourage you guys to really think about that as you move forward in the next week.